You know, when they say, you know, your first project nearly kills you, it nearly killed me. If you would have made an Instagram profile out of my life, you would be following it because it would have every single thing that you would attach to success. I was like completely destroyed and I fell through the door. So my mum, she went, what's the matter? I said, Mum, I've destroyed my life. Wake the fuck up. This is your moment to wake up. So I decided in that moment that I was going to go on an absolute mission to go back and help people in the position that I once was. Because if I can, anyone can.
So, welcome to the Faster Podcast, episode 1. And there is no better man that I could think of for the first episode than my good friend, Tim Cooper. He is a huge car nerd, but most importantly, he has an incredible story to share with you all. And that's what I want this podcast to be. I don't just want it to be about cars, although I do want to have people on that love cars. But most importantly, I want it to be about stories and the people and their journeys and the challenges that they've faced. And when you hear this podcast, you'll realize that not everyone is going through the same stuff, but everyone has their unique struggles and unique problems that they deal with. And even people like this, you know, people with great cars, great houses and stuff you see on the surface, you know, you feel like they're great, you know, they're doing great and they're very successful. They might still have stuff going on behind the scenes that you could never even think of. And Tim, tell us, I guess, the quick summary of who is Tim Cooper right now and what does he do and how did you get to where you are now at first?
Well, hello everyone, I'm Tim. So I'm a high performance coach. I would say that's my label now. And I have amazing opportunities to fly all around the world, coaching high performing individuals, both in businesses and within teams. And that was probably something, if you would have told me 7-8 years ago, I would have laughed at you for obvious reasons that we'll get into. But I've got the ability now to go and change a lot of lives. I've written my own book, The Art of Unlearning. As you know, I'm a massive petrol head.
We'll get into that. There's some cool stuff in your collection throughout the years.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a massive petrol head. I suppose where I am right now, like literally, I've just taken a massive step, moved out of London to the Cotswolds. That's where we are now, right now. Massive change for me, but really loving life, loving the calm. I think now, I'm over 40, and since I've just changed since I.
He's lying. He just wants to seem more mature. As you can tell, he's 31.
I mean, when you see me drive, you'll think I'm 21. But you know, it's one of the biggest indicators to my success, like in present time, moving up here. And it's been a massive change for me. So that's where I am geographically. What am I doing right now in my business, I suppose? Helping people break through. I know a lot of people are stuck. A lot of people lack clarity on where to go next. And most importantly, a lot of men really don't want to ask for help. So it's great that we're doing this podcast because, again, you're going to get a lot of people on this podcast that, as you say, rightly so, on the surface will look like they've got their shit together. Totally like amazing life. But there's always an underpinning to success. And it's normally trauma, it's normally pain or suffering. And I'm the king of the comebacks, let's say. So that's probably where you got me on first.
You got quite a story. All right, should we drive somewhere, get a drink?
Mate, let's do it.
Hear this awesome car?
Yes, mate, let's do it.
So that's what we're going to try to aim for in this podcast. It's going to be a mix of cars, but like I said, most importantly, the stories. Should we put this thing in race mode?
Well, is there any other mode? Is there?
Not for these cars. Jesus Christ.
There she goes. Yeah, told you I was 21. As the police just casually.
Literally just saw a police car going past.
I mean, I slowed down to about 110 when I saw the police. No,
we are being sensible. However, this car sounds very aggressively, even when you're doing 20 miles an hour.
It does. To be. I mean, we've just pulled out of Tesco. You know, it's actually a 60 that road. It's not until a 30. And in fact, you know what? It's funny. That's one of the reasons that I moved up here. was so I could bring this car alive a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because as you know, I was in Fulham before.
Just
And
traffic.
yeah, this car was crying out for performance. I didn't buy this, you know, nothing that I don't ever buy anything just to sit and look at it.
Yeah.
You know, as beautiful as this car is, it's a race car. It's a track. It's really, I mean, it's got a full roll cage in the back, full race Recaro seats. This is actually the exact same spec of the car, which was the safety car in the F1. Exact same spec. So, you know, this car is born to hit the track, and as you know, the Black Series holds the record for the Nürburgring. So this knows a little bit about track. So I wanted to, you know, come up here, open it up a little bit more on the roads up here. They're beautiful roads. And, you know, since I've come up here, I've joined supercar clubs. I'm part of a club now called SCC, which is really nice. We meet up, which is nice. You get to meet new people. So it's really opened up different opportunities for me. The car, but also just moving up here, and that's what an environment will do for you, you know?
So, of course, in this price range, you got quite a selection of different supercars, whereas I feel like the lower level is a bit, you know, a bit of an understatement. The cheaper AMGs are normally sort of entry cars into high performance driving, like a C63s and E63s, etc. But when you go to sort of AMG GTR territory, of course, it isn't a cheap car. So why go for an AMG instead of your Ferraris, your McLarens, your Lamborghinis? What influenced that choice to go for the GTR?
Great question. Emotion from my emotional like buy-in, and just AMGs. I mean, I'm super biased because, you know, I've had AMGs since I was 24. And I don't mean like AMG line, CDI and stuff like that. Yeah. I've had, you know, when the first...
The real thing.
Yeah, I've had, you know, I've had 4 C63s. I've had the sedan, I've had the, and then I've had the 2 coupes. Then I had the C63 S cab, you know, so I've gone through all the C63s. I've had a GL63S, I've had a GL43, I've had 2 AMG 45s and AMG 45S. I've had an E63. You know,
so you're kind of stuck with the brand.
Yeah, do you know what? And I've got in other cars, and don't get me wrong. You know, we're always out now doing, you know, we're always out at events and stuff, and I'm always like looking over at the McLarens, the 720s, and I'm like, oh, and that's quite feeling that. But I mean, there's something about these cars, and what it is for me is that it's the feedback that you get from the car. It's just nuts. It's just a hooligan, the car. It's like I said to you earlier, someone in Germany has sat round a table and said, should we just make an absolutely ridiculous car today? Let's get a saloon and just stick a 6.3 litre engine in it and give it 500 brake horsepower. I mean, who does that? So, you know, I've had a lot of over the time, you know, well, you know, if it's track focus, you might want to get a BMW because it's going to hold better. Yes, it is. But for me, BMWs lack the emotion of an AMG. Great driving car, amazing at what they do. But you get behind a wheel of this, you have to know how to drive.
Yeah. And
that's what I like about this. And that runs through into my blood. My dad was a rally driver.
Oh wow.
So this is not like this is not a dick extension for me, this car, right? It's in my DNA. Yeah. Motorsport is in my DNA. So, you know, I have to feel that emotion with the car, and I have to feel like if I take the piss out of this car, I have to feel like it could kill me, because otherwise I will take the piss out of it. So it humbles me, let's say.
Okay, so it seems to me that the way you're going in your trajectory in life, and you stick it with all these AMGs, I feel like eventually you're going to get all the way to the Paganis.
Well, do you know what? It's on the vision board. Let's put it that way. What a phenomenal car. I mean, I've been in a couple of them, and I mean they're not really a daily, are they? Let's be honest.
No, they're wild.
But phenomenal.
This is your daily, right?
This is my daily. Yeah. It's I've got other cars. You know, I put the dogs in. I've got Mini Coopers and stuff like that.
And you said, what is it, like a 700 horsepower tune at the moment?
It's running about 730 at the minute.
And it's still perfectly drivable on the road.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfectly drivable. It's got. I mean, the only mods that it's had is it's fully decatted, so it's got downpipes have been replaced on it. But I mean, like I was saying to you earlier, because it is such a hooligan, it is arse end happy. And if you don't warm these Michelin Cup Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres up, you know about it.
Yeah.
Like it lets you know.
Yeah.
It lets you know. It's like, I'm not ready yet. You know, but when they stick the compound in this tyre, I mean, these Pilot Sports 2 are specifically made for this GTR. So again, you know, someone's tailored it. So, you know, you get the best performance out of the car and it sticks. You can push this into corners at speeds that I won't even talk about on camera because I'm still a coach, remember?
Always below the speed limit.
Yeah, all performed in a very safe environment.
Unless you take it around the corner to Mexico, which is
exactly.
right next to the UK. Okay,
Exactly.
so when it comes to cars, let's say right now, I mean, recently in America, someone won $1.2 billion in a lottery. You win 1.2 billion. What 3 cars do you buy?
Oh, that is. Do you know what? Here's you're gonna really. This is gonna do you. I don't think you're gonna expect this. I would buy a Mark II Escort RS.
Okay.
Rally car, full like works, Ford Works. You know, stage 2 rally car, like the same as, you know, the Subaru P1 where Colin McRae, that sort of time. I'd just have to have one of them, and I'd have the Martini brand and badges. I'd have that on there, and it would just, you know, that for me is a definite. I'd then have a Mercedes 300 SL Gold Wing, 100%, because that is just class upon class.
That is the right car for a man with $1 billion in his bank account.
Yes. So I definitely have one of them, and I would think I'd have a Hennessy Venom.
Okay.
And there's something about those. I don't know what it is.
See, the first 2,
Yeah.
I could have sort of, you know, matched it to you, but Venom is a wild card you threw in there.
Yeah. It's a bit of a wild card, that one.
They are pretty crazy.
They're pretty crazy. I don't know what it is about that car. I've just got this, mate. I've got this connection to it. And although there's like, you know, you could chuck AMG 1 in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
That's going to be
in some videos.
Yeah.
It's like an F1 car for the road.
Yeah, that's a crazy car. I mean, but you know, these hypercars now, you could pick anyone and it'll be absolutely insane. But there's just something about that Venom. I don't know what it is. The styling on it maybe as well, combined with just the. I mean, look, anything with Venom in the name, like I'm in.
It lets you know.
I'm in. Like hooligan Venom, like liability, like that's. I think that is. It's my personality, right? So Hennessy Venom, yeah.
So like you said, you had quite a collection of cars. Well, so what age did you get your first supercar? Well, not a supercar, let's say a sports car, and how did you manage to afford that?
Oh, do you know what? I sort of had, this is really funny, so you're probably going to ask this, but I'll start anyway. But my first car was a Nova SR 1.4. So I've always got like, you know, even when I passed my test, I was never like, let's get, you know, Dad, can I get a Fiesta 1.1 or like even a, you know, just basic, not even a gear, like just a standard. I've never really gone, because my dad always had Escort Harriers and RSs and stuff like that, like top spec, race spec, rally spec, because what he did. So I was always like, Tartan Recaros, like that. that used to drive me insane. You know, I think my first proper sports car, what would it be? That's a tough one. Maybe, I mean, a saloon really. I've had an Audi RS4 was one of my first.
Yeah, that's pretty well. Definitely count that as a sports car.
I had an M5 after that as well, which was, I went quite big on the saloons.
So you did dip into BMW?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I dipped in it enough to tell me that actually this is not what I want. That's what I found about BMW. I couldn't really get on with the iDrive and that that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I know they've really dialed that in since then, but I know this is not the same category, but even when I went to put the downpipes on this, the guy gave me his he had an X5, just a 3-litre diesel X5. He'd remapped it and all this sort of stuff. And it had this like electric steering. I didn't feel like I was in control of the car whatsoever. It was bouncy, it was all over the place. I was like, there's just something about this. I just don't connect with them. I think that aesthetically they look fun. Some of the the lights and stuff and the shapes they put on these BMs. I know it's like real controversial now, the new front grille, on the 4 Series and stuff like that. I love it personally. I think it looks like aggressive. I quite like it. It's grown on me a lot. And I really like, funny enough, this, that crown grey colour, M3, like the estate, the shooting brake that they're, that looks mean. And they're so fast as well, but every time I get in, I sit in the interior and I'm bored. I'm like, the steering wheel, doesn't really do it. It doesn't really say race me.
Yeah.
It says, this is like, we've taken something from the 90s here and tried to, upgrade it a bit, and it hasn't really, that's the feel I get from it. A lot of BMW drivers are going to be like, yeah, but Mercs, but each to their own. I'm not slagging off any brand. That's just not my style, as you know, because they're phenomenal cars. Some of them are faster than the AMGs and stuff like that. They handle better, but we're back to what it is. I think it depends what it is that you want from a car. And I think that's all individual to the person that's driving it.
It is an extension of your personality.
Completely. That's why I want something that's out of control, that I need to try and tame a little bit, which is like my personality. Yeah, I want something where I've got instant fear. And that's what it is. And that's what it's done.
It's like a roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're probably not gonna die, but it's still at the back of your head. If something does go wrong, you gotta be on your toes.
I shouldn't be doing this, but I know I'm probably going to.
So even with like you said, with an RS4 and an M5, what were you doing back then to be able to have these cars?
Oh,
because they weren't cheap.
No, they wasn't actually. So I had my own magazine then. I had my own publication. It was a fashion magazine for hair, beauty, clothing brands, fashion, and it used to get distributed out to local areas where I used to live. Excuse me. So we had about 40,000 copies, and people used to buy the advertising within the magazine.
So was that your first sort of independent business venture?
That was my first step into real entrepreneurial.
That's a big project to take on.
Yeah, it was massive. And when they say, your first project nearly kills you, it nearly killed me. It did. I burnt out. I was in hospital. I come up with loads of different abscesses and stuff. You still see little dots on me right now. I get them come up all the time. I had to have a blood transfusion. At the time, I nearly died because of these. I got something called MRSA, and that then moved into something called streptococca. And in that time, I said, we was trying to figure out what actually happened, and the nurse and the doctors they said, look, you have hit pure burnout. Your immune system is on its arse. Wow. You need sleep, you need nutrients, you need iron, and you need recovery. And that was like my first little dip into running a business and the things that you do when it's yours, and the late nights and stuff. So that's how it all started, and that's how I could afford the cars.
Well, I think that's the perfect example of what we see going on now, right? Because I feel like in today's society, it is glorified, the whole, no sleep, you're up at 5 a.m., you go to bed at 2 a.m. and, work, 24/7 hustle. But you're the perfect example of what that can lead to, because I guess that's what you were doing, right? In your book, you speak about it. You said that you weren't eating properly, you weren't exercising, you didn't take care of your body whatsoever, and eventually your body kind of started letting you know that, listen, you don't stop this, you're not going to be around for too long.
Yeah, your body is the ultimate indicator of how you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're not looking after it, it will tell you. if you're looking after it, it will tell you. So, you know, it's such a great indicator of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing with your energy, your lifestyle, your health. You know, for me, look, when I was in that place, and you know, I was chasing the hours, the success, the material stuff, I didn't actually realise the optimum way to get that, because you know, I wanted to Amazon Prime my life, like most of us do. Since that time, obviously, I've done a lot of work on myself. I've become a coach. I've done a lot of further education. And you know, one thing that I always say to my clients now is, you know, life is built up of 56% performance and 44% recovery. And the way that, you know, you can work that out is just thinking about the hours that you should be sleeping and the hours that you should be working and the hours that you should be, you know, putting your head down, dialing it in, and the hours that you should be spending with family and resting and just, you know, factory resetting yourself. You don't actually, you know, go out on 100% every single day. You can't. It is impossible to do that. Look, the best football teams in the world, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea, Man United, whatever, let's chuck Tottenham in because I'm a Spurs fan. The best football teams in the world do not play a game every day. They don't even train every day. In fact, it's the physio, the massaging, the recovery. That's what gives them the optimum performance for them to then go and play on that pitch and win trophies.
Absolutely.
And that's the bit that people don't see. You don't ever see football teams being filmed in the sauna and the steam room or on the, you know, on the sports therapy bed. You just don't see it because, you know, it's not the game, is it? The game is like, go out there, smash it, kill it, score it, win goals, win trophies. But really, and if you really want to win a trophy, and you can use this analogy for anything, if you really want to be the best, like the best, you've got to think about what it is that you're doing outside of playing the game.
Absolutely.
And that's when you can take it to another level.
So you had that little close call. You had a huge close call, right? You almost...
Yeah, and it was very close. It's a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was close.
And then eventually I'm guessing you bounced back, right? And you hit that first stage of your life where you felt successful, right? Because like from your book, for those of you who've read Tim's book, you had a free supercar garage,
yes,
huge house.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that period of your life, that first taste of sort of what most people would consider huge success, right? And that successful lifestyle. What kind of person were you back then, and what was your focus in life,
well,
etc.?
I mean, put it this way, to put it into perspective. If you would have made an Instagram profile out of my life, you would be following it.
Yeah.
Because it would have every single thing that you would attach to success on the front end. Supercars, on the drive, beautiful 6-7 bedroom house, swimming pool, flying jet and helicopter and business and first class everywhere, financially free, great business with somebody else, beautiful wife, all of that stuff I had, you know, it was there sitting pretty for me, you know, Ferraris, fucking Aston Martins, Porsches, you know, the cars were there whenever I wanted them because I just had the capital to go out and, you know, get what I wanted really. And you know, I was sitting pretty, so to speak. And then one day, I come home and I felt this in my bones was happening over a space of time, but I didn't really want to believe it. One day I come home and I found my wife in bed with her best friend, Guy, is a man. It's on New Year's Eve actually, and. You know, in that moment, that's when I really become a man. Because, you know, I've been brought up, you know, to put my back up against the wall. If someone hits you, fucking hit them back twice as hard. You do what it takes. And, you know, I think if the man that I am today, to a certain extent, didn't show up in that moment, then the boy would have shown up. And if the boy would have shown up, we wouldn't be recording this podcast right now. I think I'll be doing, you know, a life in prison stretch.
Like most of us probably in that situation, right? It's a human response.
Yeah, it was fight or flight for me, and you know, it was I flew. So, you know, it was like get out. I was like, right. You know, I said to him, I won't go into full detail, but you know, I said to him, because we've been through a divorce and there's all sorts of legislation that I can't do, but you know, I said get out at that moment. They both got out, and then we started the proceedings to obviously separating. That was a very challenging, testing time for me, because I come from nothing, and I developed myself into this individual that had all these things that this boy, not just myself, my friends and people listening to this, you know, aspire to have. All the cars, all the money, all the fucking, it was like a dream. And then it slowly started to go one by one. Because I lost my job, because I was in business with her dad. So I lost my job. We had, you know, I was due to be paid out a lot of money. But they'd been doing stuff on the sly behind my back for a little while because they were planning it. So I didn't come out of a lot of money. And slowly the car started to, you know, be removed and repossessed off the drive. The house, same thing happened. You know, I come out with like 80 or 90 grand. I should have come out with a couple of million or something like that, really. You know, so that was a tough fucking time for me, really tough. And in that moment, you know, I really went downhill. I started doing a lot of coke, like shitloads of coke. I started sleeping with prostitutes every night. I become a sex addict. I was drinking a lot, and I was doing that on a regular basis, like regular. I mean, there were times, like I had a black V12 Vantage Aston, and I drove it to the ports at Dover because I wanted to pick up my coke from there because I knew that it wouldn't be cut if it come in off the docks. That's how nuts I was with a V12 Aston. How hot is that? Like, that is like a police pullover if you fucking... Yeah. And I was always out my nut driving it. And I just went into a really, really bad, deep, dark hole. And I couldn't pull myself out of it. And I remember one day, morning, let's say, I woke up and there was the reminiscence of the night before. There rolled up banknotes, cards on the table, lumps of gear. There was like thongs. The kitchen looked like a bomb had hit it. And I looked around at myself. I was like, fucking, what have you, like, get out. What have you done? There was a girl on the thing. Maybe, there was one girl, prostitute on the thing. I told her to get out. Anyway, I went to McDonald's, McFlurry. I went to get some McFlurries because I love McFlurries. So I was like, McFlurry sort me out from my life fucking crisis, yeah? Good old golden arches. Things you do when you're fucked, right? So I was like, right, okay, let's go and get a McFlurry. So I went there, and that drive, Simon, taught me the most about my life that I've ever been taught up until this day. Even now, I've never had a lesson that has taught me to such depth as the way that did. And I drove up to the drive-through, and I pulled the visor down because the sun was coming in, and I caught my reflection, and I was like, whew, I was like, who the fuck is that? I was like, who is that? And it was obviously myself staring back at myself, and I was like, who have you become? Like, who are you? I was unrecognizable to myself, and that was scary. And in that moment, all I needed was one particular thing. I just needed to be loved, or someone show me love in this simplest way. And that was, are you all right, mate? How are you?
Just to check up.
You all right? You having a good day? How are you? You don't look that good. Are you all right? Everything all right? Nothing. And because that didn't happen, I then drove out, put the windows down in the car, I had a C63 at the time, coupe white one. And I'd been thinking about this for a little while. There was a wall on the A10 as you drive into London, just near my mum's, funny enough. Fucking bad thinking about it now. And I was like, I'm just gonna fucking put the car into the wall. It's fast enough. I'll come off the roundabout and I'll just put it into the wall. Fuck it, I'll be dead by the time I get to this, you know. So I was like, right, let's do it. So I put the windows down. I was screaming out the windows, crying, because I knew what I was gonna do. I come off of the roundabout and I floored it. And I picked up fast to about 70 or 80 in a 30. And then out of nowhere, the sun fucking got me again. So as it got me like this, I went to pull down the visor as just a natural, like, fucking hell, it's blocking me. And in that moment, I can't really tell you what happened. I've played it over my mind a million times. But I suppose for people that are listening to this, it was like life stood still for me in that moment. You know when you go into a bad accident or something happens and it's like slow motion? That's what it was like. It was like it was complete slow motion. I was like, fuck. And then I had this fast forward, all in this moment, this fast forward, and I was at my own funeral. And my mum, my dad, my sister, all of my family and friends were lowering me in my own fucking coffin. And you know how fast our thoughts come, right? And there was this one thing that just stood out, and he's like, oh, you know, Tim was lovely, but it was his marriage. Claire killed him in the end. He couldn't come back from it. And that, I slammed on the brake. That stopped me. I slammed on the brake. And I thought, I can't go out like this. I can't. I'm made for more. I know I am. But it nearly got me in that moment. That's it. Like you can't really come any closer to that. You know that. And I believe, like, call it a beam of light, a sun, a fucking awake, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But something happened that stopped me from doing it. I don't know what that is. I just know that it happened. So I pulled into the bus stop. And I broke down completely. I was crying, sobbing like a little boy. I was sobbing and sobbing. People come up to the window. Are you all right, mate? Everything all right? Yeah. I was like, mate, I'm all right. Anyway, I finally plucked up like enough courage to drive around my mum's. And that was the toughest drive. It's only around the corner. And then I saw my mum and I walked up the drive. I was empty. Like, you know when someone's walking, you know when someone's just got off the assault bike and someone's just said, go on then, 100 calories, 2 minutes, what you got? Yeah, imagine that times 10 and all your emotions. So physically and emotionally, I was like completely destroyed. And I fell through the door. So my mum, she went, what's the matter? I said, Mum, I've destroyed my life. Like, I've destroyed yours, I've destroyed everyone around me. And I said, I just want you to know that I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back from this. And that was the start. And when I reflect on that moment all the time, because who does that in a moment like that? Who finds the resilience just after they've gone to, within that moment, to say, I'm going to fucking come back? Normally people are, you know, self-pity, sobbing, fucking suffering at that time, which I was, but there was something within me. It was like a breakthrough. Now I wish I wish from that moment it would have been plain sailing, but it wasn't. I kept relapsing, and you know, it was happening all the time. And then there was this one moment that I'd done all my gear. I couldn't get hold of any more coke. So around that time, I kept relapsing, because I thought it was going to be a bit more plain sailing than it was after I made that decision, when I, you know, especially when I fell through that door and told my mum. But, you know, I kept going. There was so many ups and downs for me for like 2 months. But there was this one time where I couldn't get any gear anymore. And I was ringing round everyone to see who had it. Everyone. No one was answering. No one was answering my calls. And I was so close. I got the phone. I was like, right, fuck this. I went to launch it at the wall. And as I went to launch it, I caught the TV. And as I caught the TV, there was this advert on. It was a UNICEF advert. And there was this little black boy, and he must have been about 4 years of age, in the favelas. And he was pissing in this little, he was scooping water out of this little stream bit, right? With all plastic in and all stuff like that. And then the cameraman panned to the other side, which must have been about 20, 30 meters up the little stream bit. And there was a young little girl scooping the water out to drink it. And I was like, Tim, you're sitting here trying to get more gear in your gated community, in your nice little flat, tucked away, and these kids have got no hope whatsoever. Wake the fuck up. This is your moment to wake up. And out of all that money, that 80, 90 grand that I got, I sniffed it all that 90 grand. I'd done it on coke and prostitutes. I had about 300 quid left in my account. I rung that number up and gave the lot to the charity. Now, you know, a better story might be like, oh, well, I didn't know what I was going to do for food and after and stuff like that, but I would have just gone round my mum's. But the meaning of it is that struck a chord in me, and it woke me up, and it made me realise that there are people in far fucking worse positions than I was. And I thought my position was really bad. And it was bad for me. But in perspective, it wasn't that bad. So I decided in that moment that I was going to go on an absolute mission to go back and help people in the position that I once was. Now that might sound a little bit funny because, you know, 3 months before that, 2.5 months, I'd gone to commit suicide. But one thing that I've learned is, if I'm a day in front of you, Simon, then I'm a day in front of you. And if I can sell you yesterday for 10 grand, because yesterday I made 400 grand, you would buy it for 10 grand. Because why wouldn't you? Right? So a lot of people fail to capitalize and help people, right? Because they think they're not far enough ahead, or they don't know as much, or they're not in a position to, you know, really help people break through right now. But I wasn't like that. I was like, do you know what? I've got so much life experience. I've done so many jobs, been down so many fucking rabbit holes, and now I had all this happen to me. I can really help people. So, you know, in that moment, I decided to go fully into personal training. I was like, right, I want to train people physically and make them feel good. I was already training myself, doing that stuff. When I was with my ex-wife, I was running just for fun a boot camp. So I was running a boot camp with the locals around there, just like in the little village. But I was doing, 50% was going to cancer research and stuff like that. So I've always had this contribution thing, this need, to look after people outside of myself. And that's why I wanted to go into personal training. So that's where I met you.
Yeah, I still remember we always used to sort of talk in the gym, right? And we used to kind of know each other. Like you said, you were always in the gym because you were working so hard trying to rebuild your life and everything. And I wasn't aware of any of that because that was before your book. That was before we sort of became good friends, and before I really found out where you come from and what did you go through when you were, before sort of joining the gym that I was at. But I remember one morning very distinctively because I was going through a lot of stuff. This was probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something. And I remember I was trying to figure out a lot of things in my life. I wasn't in the best place, nowhere near to where you were, of course, but still, we all have our struggles. And
it's relevant.
Everyone's struggles are valid, whether, you struggle to get out of bed or all the way up to the point where you were. And I remember it was early morning, because what I started doing, I was like, okay, I have no control over so many things in my life. Let me at least control my gym and my routine. So I was there, every day at 6 a.m. trying to forget all my other worries. And I think it was like 5:30 in the morning, and you come up to me and I'm like, And I'm like, hey Tim, what's going on? And you're like, what's up? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just training, I'm about to do some squats, blah, blah, blah. You're like, and you stop me and you go, no, you didn't hear me. What's up? Like, what's going on? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, there's something wrong, isn't it? And I was like, no, you do the usual, no, I'm all right, mate. And then I kind of stopped myself and I thought, you know what? Let me sort of tell it how it is. And I was like, yeah, like I'm not in a good place and blah, blah. And I still to this day, had no idea how the fuck you knew that something was up. And I mean, I was always, me, I'm always a happy sort of jolly guy. So I wasn't there, sort of, with the dark hoodie on me and everything like that. But you spotted it. And I think that is why you're so good as a life coach. And that's why I really think that sun hit you at the right moment before you was going to take your life, is that there was a deeper purpose for what you do, right?
100%.
And since then, I think you helped me a lot in a lot of different ways to sort of overcome my problems, and I'm sure you've done that for hundreds, if not thousands, of other people. But going back to your story and how you sort of started turning your life around, I'm going to take a little segue to help out someone who's maybe listening and in a very similar spot. So let's say you're a young man right now, like a lot of young men out there, that's struggling to find himself, and he thinks that nothing's working, and he thinks that he's now reached a point of his life where he doesn't want to be around it anymore, and he thinks that all hope is lost. And what do you think would be the first steps someone in that position should immediately start taking to start crawling their way out of that dark hole? Because I know you're a specialist in this, and if someone comes to you right now and says, Tim, I need your help, I'm this close to ending it, what do?
You get honest with yourself. That's the very first step to changing your life, is you sit yourself down and you stop lying to yourself about yourself. And when you do that, you need to take responsibility for what you've done, your actions, and most importantly, you need to own those things, right? Because they're part of who you are up until this moment. Now, they don't define who you're going to become. They just define who you are right at this particular moment, right? And I think when you get honest with yourself, if you don't own your story after that, then you're going to find life really challenging, right? Because there are things that happen to all of us. Trauma, things, horrible things that have happened to children and growing up, and things we've experienced that have really knocked our confidence, our self-esteem, and give us a set of beliefs about life that actually aren't what life is. It's what life has been like up until that moment for you. But it doesn't mean to say that life has to be that way forever. And, I sat myself down and I got a bit of paper out and I got honest with myself. And that looks a little bit something like this. You are currently a drug addict. You have more potential than what you're playing at right now in your life, and you fucking know it. So it doesn't have to be all negative stuff.
It's not all negative, right?
No, it's like, actually, you have got the minerals. Yeah, you know that you have, right? But something is blocking them. It's normally the trauma that we are carrying, right? And so there'll be people listening to this and they'll be like, well, that's all good, right? But I get honest with myself, and I still can't seem to break through, right? Let go. Fucking let go. Stop holding the past. Stop carrying the weight of your past experiences around, the horrible ones, and start to believe that you can have the life that you want. Start to believe that you can turn it around. Because if I can, anyone can. Mate, I come from zero. I walked out of school, when everyone was doing their GCSEs, when I got free, what's the worst ones that you can get? Not free, I was only put in for free exams.
So
right?
not top of the class, baby.
No, not top of the class. I said to the teacher, can you tell me when an hour is? She said, why? I said, because you can leave after an hour. Yeah? So I come out with nothing. But I knew that the qualifications do not define who I am. Now, in that time, I didn't. I was just being a little shit, right? But in general, now I know that. And so I also know that your life, your experiences, the things that have happened to you, good, bad, ugly, do not define who you are. They're just part of who you've become over time. And stories can be changed, because here's the thing, life is about change. It's about evolution. It's about moving forward, evolving. It's about adapting, right? And, you know, we was talking about, before this podcast even started, we was talking about dieting and macros and stuff like that, right? And, you know, one of the things that I said to you is like, your diet, your nutrition, your goals, your targets will change daily, weekly, monthly. Who cares?
Absolutely.
How often do they change? But here's the thing, that the ultimate skill that we can all learn that will just make us equipped to anything in life is the power of adaptability. If COVID hasn't taught us that, then I don't know what else to say to your audience. Because if you can learn to adapt, that's when you're going to be able to thrive. So get honest with yourself is the very first, number one. Number two is own your story. Own the fuck out of it. Do you know what? I've got scars on my body, right? But they're not wounds.
Yeah.
They're not open. I don't need to pack them every day and dress them.
Yeah.
Don't need to undo the stitches. They're there. They're part of who I am. And do you know what? It is what it is. They're part of who I am, and it's part of my identity. So I'm just owning that part of my identity, and people should be owning that too. Thirdly, gratitude. Gratitude opens up everything.
That's huge.
Everything. Because if you start to focus on what you have got and what you haven't, then everything that you have got becomes enough. That's when you can start to look outside yourself and contribute and give beyond yourself. And that's the full thing, contribution. Contribution, doing things outside of your own self, finding something that's bigger than you. So when you're looking at yourself back in the mirror and you're not feeling that great and life isn't going your way, because that'll happen to all of us at some stage. Yeah. Probably going to happen to me and you over the space of this year at some stage. It's just part of life, right? It's just part of life. So when that happens, think about, what's the bigger purpose here? What am I trying to do? What impact, what legacy am I trying to leave? What stamp or mark do I want to imprint on this world? So when I leave and when I go, people are like, wow, shit, yeah. Look what he did. Who for? Not for him, for everyone else. It's like people that, you know, that are making things that will stand the test of time.
Absolutely. And I think that's the case for a lot of sort of huge, big entrepreneurs in the world and things like that. It's always a bigger purpose than themselves.
Completely.
I mean, I don't think Elon Musk wakes up every morning and goes, how can I make another billion? And things like that.
Of course he doesn't. And funny enough, consequently, in you know, I forgot. I always fuck that word up. Anyway, let's stick with funny enough. Funny enough, right? Here's the thing about that. You get paid for the level of the problem that you solve. That's what you get paid for. With respect, because I've done all these jobs, so I'm not looking down at anyone. If you stack shelves in Waitrose, you'll get paid for stacking the shelf because the level of the problem of shelf stacking. If you get paid, you know, if you're doing the farmland here, you'll get paid for the level of, you know, the wheat that comes out of it. If someone needs to break through a challenge in their life and they are struggling, right? You will pay somebody like me to take you past that place.
Absolutely.
I just want everyone to know, while we're doing this podcast, I've got Volvos overtaking me down a country lane. It's hurt my ego a little bit, so I will turn it on in a minute. Yeah.
We're so deep in conversation that we let us get bullied on the road.
Bullies, but Volvos.
But that goes back to humility, right?
Yes.
You in your AMG GTR, and just let someone in the Volvo overtake you. Still got a bit of the ego knocking on that right foot, going, come on.
Oh no, do you know what? It's funny because if you can get a chokehold on your ego, and this is the thing about why so many people end up losing their shit, is because when they get honest with themselves, their ego does not like it.
Yeah.
Because honesty normally requires you having to be a bit humble about some of the bad decisions you've made or some of the next decisions that you're going to make moving forward, and the ego doesn't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It says, no, we're bigger than this, better than this. Just keep going round in circles. We'll figure it out. Who's ever fucking figured something out going around in circles? No one. You've got to intervene it, and the quickest way to do that is to get honest with yourself.
That's absolutely true. And I think you notice that with a lot of successful people, right? Is that when they first start making money, I've seen it with a lot of my friends and things like that. Everyone's trying to look wealthy, right? And then when they've been doing it for a while and when they become even more successful, they focus more on, like you said, the bigger picture, right? What is the way that they can change the world and things like that. But going back to sort of the early days, if you could do it all over again, and I know you wouldn't change a thing because it made you who you are, but let's say right now, someone's out there, 16 years old, just come out of school, what would you say they should focus on? What are some tips you would give them to sort of make sure that they set themselves up on the right direction and the right path to become successful?
Yeah. So I think if I'm young and I'm listening to this, you are going to be pulled into multiple different directions at that time in your life, and that's going to feel a little bit overwhelming. You're going to be looking at what other people are doing naturally, just because of the way social media is right now, and you will benchmark yourself and compare yourself to other people. You will judge other people. That's natural human trait. And upon that judgment, you'll then define whether you're good enough. And you don't need anybody else's to validate how good you are. You're good enough on your own. So my advice is try fucking everything. Try everything. Dip your toes in the water. Don't worry and give too much meaning to what you're doing, but just be like, this is part of my journey. It's not the journey, right? So just, if there's things that, if there's an itch that you need to scratch right now, go and scratch it. Go and scratch it. Don't worry about, fixing your whole vision of life and your whole problem, because there'll be people out there right now that will promise you the world, that will show you how, if you invest in this, if you do this, this is the outcome, this is the result, but that's their result. So fly solo to a certain extent, stay humble, stay grateful, and if there's something that's pulling you, fucking go and do it. If there's something that's being pushed on you, 100% don't do it. And take those opportunities and use your initiative. And when you're doing these things, always remember the place that you come from. Never forget who you are, how you was brought up, your values, your principles, the things that your mum and dad drilled into you from an early age, if they were good things, of course. And on the flip side to that, if you've been brought up and it's been a bad upbringing for you, that doesn't mean to say that you're going to have a shit life. Just because your mum or dad was on minimum wage does not mean that you have to be on fucking minimum wage. And in fact, use that as leverage to push past, and make sure that you do right for you so you can provide that for your kids. So, long-winded answer, but variety is the key. Go and try everything.
I think that's powerful. And I was watching The Last Dance, which is the Michael Jordan and the Bulls documentary.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
And even Michael Jordan, probably one of the, if not the greatest athlete to ever play any sport in the world. I mean, completely changed the game, changed the industry. When he was pretty much at his peak, he took a mini retirement to go and play, or try to play, professional baseball.
Yeah.
So if someone like Michael Jordan, who's on top of the world in his area, can say, you know what, when I was a kid, I wanted to play baseball, let me go and try to make it in baseball, then surely you can do that when you're 17 or 18 years old and go from one career to another career, or, try to change up your life in that sense.
Simon, one of the biggest dangers with growing up is that we put too much meaning on things. And that is one of the biggest dangers. When something happens, it means this. And because this has happened, I can't no longer do this. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people struggle with, because they end up thinking that one decision is going to fuck their life up. Well, it's not. One decision is what you need to learn about life. That's the mindset that you need. You know, don't always go into something with an expectation of, you know, receiving this big fucking payoff when you get out the other end. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because it feels good, and do it because you're being pulled to do it. Not because it's being forced on, or you're following the fucking crowd, or your friends are doing it, or it just you know, people are saying, oh, it feels right for me. No. Make sure you stay in your lane. Make sure you stay in your lane. And when you do that, everything will change for you. My parking sensor's going off. Let me park.
That seems like a great place to end it. But just before we go, I want to ask one final question. Tim Cooper in 10 years. What's the vision?
Well, a little bit like the last 5 has been, really. You know, I think for me, it's about impacting more lives. It's about really making a difference. It's about leaving this planet and someone saying, do you know what? He did things beyond himself so other people could benefit from it. And whatever that encompasses for me over the last 10 years, that's where I'm going. I mean, we could go into finer detail, but, you know, in general...
We're going to leave some for another time, because I'm sure people are going to be asking for more podcasts with you. That was absolutely amazing.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
Even though we stopped, we definitely haven't reached the end of our adventures. I'm sure
No, we haven't.
Many more times, and maybe take this thing for a proper spin and not get Volvo's overtaken.
I know.
We had to get the deep podcast out of the way first.
Well, Volvos don't overtake you on Brands Hatch and Silverstone. I'm just letting you know that.
We'll take it out
Or
properly.
Doddington, yeah.
So, for those of you watching, thank you very much. If you stay with us this far and you got some kind of value from this podcast, which I'm sure you have, and just to say thank you to Tim, leave us a like down below and definitely subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. I would really appreciate it for the support that you've shown us. Follow Tim on all social media. So on Instagram, it's at Tim Cooper Academy.
That's it, yeah.
And we're also on Facebook. It's the same thing.
TikTok is Tim Cooper TV.
There you go.
Yeah, Facebook, Tim Cooper Academy. And you're trying to get me on YouTube, which I'm sure I'm going to oblige to by the end of the day.
It's going to happen.
We don't know what that is. I have got Tim Cooper TV on YouTube as well. So let's make a commitment.
It's in
there
the
you
works.
go.
And if
It's in
there's
the
one
works.
man that can take action, it's you, right?
Yes.
So stay tuned for that.
Nice one.
Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.
See you guys.